Carl Jung's legacy extends far beyond simple observations, delving into the profound aspects of human existence. His explorations of the psyche unveil how our inner world shapes our external reality. Perhaps each of us has experienced feeling undervalued in relationships, when it seems that what we give exceeds what we receive. But what if the root of this problem lies not in those around us, but within ourselves? Self-love is not just a trendy buzzword or a phrase from a motivational poster. It is the cornerstone of our personality, the foundation of our relationships, and our connection with the world. Jung deeply understood that many of our experiences are conditioned by unconscious processes hidden in the shadows of the mind. A lack of awareness of our own worth can lead the subconscious to project this feeling outward, attracting people and situations that only confirm this negative belief. From an early age, we are subjected to programming aimed at seeking external approval. We are taught that our value is determined by grades, praise, and social recognition. Imperceptibly, we begin to build our identity based on the opinions of others. However, Jung warned against this path, pointing out that it leads us away from authenticity. The pursuit of recognition creates a mask, an idealized self that does not always reflect our true essence. This false self becomes a reflection of what we believe makes us loved, valued, and acceptable. But the further we move away from our true essence, the more difficult it becomes to establish genuine, deep connections with those around us. In this regard, the phenomenon of projection plays a key role. Carl Jung insightfully observed that human nature is prone to projecting onto others those qualities and traits that we either do not recognize in ourselves or refuse to acknowledge. For example, if deep down you are convinced that you are unworthy of love, your subconscious will relentlessly attract people into your life whose behavior will only reinforce this harmful belief. Similarly, if you are haunted by the feeling that you constantly have to fight for attention, then most likely your environment will consist of those who value you only in moments of your usefulness. It is important to understand that this is not a conspiracy of the universe against you, nor is it an evil fate that dooms you to eternal suffering in relationships. It is merely a reflection of your inner world, a mirror reflecting your own state of mind. The solution to the problem of disharmonious relationships lies not in trying to change others, but in a profound transformation of your attitude towards yourself. The process of individuation, one of Jung's most revolutionary ideas, asserts that genuine satisfaction and harmony are achieved only when a person integrates all aspects of their psyche, accepting both the light and dark sides of their personality. This means acknowledging not only your strengths and talents, but also your wounds, fears, and insecurities. It is not about striving for unattainable perfection, but about achieving wholeness. When you begin to accept yourself in all your fullness, something truly magical happens. Your aura undergoes changes. You stop seeking confirmation of your worth in the external world and begin to radiate an inner confidence that cannot be ignored. The right people begin to come into your life, not because you desperately need them, but because your energetic essence has changed. You no longer attract relationships based on deficiency, need, or the pursuit of recognition, but only those that are built on the foundation of mutual respect, admiration, and a desire for joint growth. This is the principle of synchronicity, another key concept in Jung's work. As soon as you realize your worth, as soon as you stop begging for love and start giving yourself what you have always expected from others, life will magically reciprocate. The collapse of toxic connections and the fading of forced bonds signify the arrival of new people, as if reflecting an updated version of yourself. However, it is worth realizing that this process of transformation is far from instantaneous and is not always strewn with roses. Genuine self-acceptance implies a bold look into one's own shadow. those aspects of personality that have long been suppressed or denied. These may be deep-seated fears, fear of being rejected, the horror of loneliness, or the oppressive feeling of one's own inferiority. As Jung wisely noted, ignoring the shadow does not lead to its disappearance. On the contrary, it only grows in the dark corners of the unconscious, subtly penetrating our relationships and manifesting itself in the most unpredictable ways. That is why many of us, as if bewitched, repeatedly reproduce the same destructive scenarios in relationships, fall into the nets of exhausting friendships, or encounter recurring conflicts in various life situations. This is not just a coincidence, but a persistent call from the unconscious, indicating something that has not yet healed, something that requires close attention and self-work. Accepting your shadow does not mean letting it control you. It means acknowledging it as an integral part of yourself, recognizing that you are not only the brilliance of virtues, but also a tangle of fears, wounds, and doubts. And when this integration occurs, when you begin to look at yourself with compassion and unconditional love, the world around you miraculously begins to reflect these inner changes. This is the essence of true self-love, not in superficial affirmations or ostentatious confidence, behind which lies inner emptiness, but in a deep process of self-discovery, in finding authenticity, when you stop looking in the external world for what has always been inside you. And when that moment arrives, when self-love becomes genuine and all-encompassing, people come into your life who treat you with the respect and value you truly deserve. Not because you demand it, but because you yourself have become the person who will no longer settle for less. You no longer need to spend energy convincing someone of your worth. Your energy clearly and unequivocally signals what you accept and what you categorically do not. Once you realize your true value, the world will no longer seem like a chaotic and unfair place. You will no longer experience the exhausting need to fight for love, because you will understand a simple truth. Love is not a trophy to be won in the external world, but a reflection of your inner state, your inner light. In Carl Jung's analytical psychology, there is a fundamental principle. Everything that happens to us in the world around us is a reflection of our inner state. If you encounter neglect, undervaluation, or exploitation in your personal relationships, Jung would suggest that you turn to your inner world. And the goal of this look is not self-flagellation, but a deep understanding of what part of your psyche is shaping such a reality. Perhaps at some point in your life you learned that love must be earned, or that your significance is determined by your usefulness to others. And now your subconscious, in constant pursuit of confirming these beliefs, repeatedly reproduces them in your relationships. However, as soon as you realize this pattern, a turning point will occur. You will stop needing external approval, as you will understand that true recognition must come from within. Instead of asking, "Why does no one value me?" you will begin to ask yourself, "Why do I continue to surround myself with people who do not see my true worth?" Jung argued that the human psyche strives for balance and self-realization, but this process begins with the awareness of the unconscious patterns that control us. Every time you reconcile yourself to relationships that demean you, generate self-doubt, or make you feel inadequate, you involuntarily reinforce your internal negative program. It's as if your mind is stuck in an endless cycle from which it sees no way out. But the way out has always been nearby. Jung called it the process of individuation, the path to the integrity of the personality. The point is not to change to suit social standards, but to reveal your true essence, free from the expectations of others. Embarking on the depths of self-discovery, a person begins to distinguish with striking clarity which bonds in his life are a true source of enrichment and which were only echoes of past traumas. This process, sometimes painful, like a surgical intervention, can open your eyes to the fact that some of the closest connections do not correspond to the authentic self. It is quite possible that certain friends, relatives, or partners served as a mirror, reflecting those aspects of the personality that were previously carefully avoided. Instead of recoiling from this discovery, as the insightful Jung would advise, it should be accepted as inevitable. After all, every relationship is a mirror reflection, and what we see in others is nothing more than a part of ourselves, waiting to be integrated into consciousness. Therefore, it is quite natural that with the growth of self-love, some people leave our lives, not because of a mistake on our part, but because of a change in the frequency of vibrations. Those who benefited from blurred boundaries, resorted to manipulation, or rose at the expense of low self-esteem will gradually disappear from view. This is not a loss, but a liberation, marking the further development of the personality. However, the initial feeling of emptiness can instill fear. Jung argued that the human psyche experiences a deep horror of loneliness as we are programmed to seek belonging. But it is important to distinguish between the state of loneliness and the state of harmony with oneself. True emotional freedom arrives the moment you realize that you don't need another person to feel complete. You can enjoy the company of those around you without being dependent on them to validate your own worth. A magical moment occurs when genuine, sincere people begin to gravitate toward your life. They see you not as a tool to fill their own emotional voids, but as a self-sufficient person capable of mutual growth and development. There is no longer a need to beg for love, because you have realized that love is not a reward to be earned through sacrifice. You have come to understand that true love is a reflection of the respect and acceptance you give yourself. The great psychologist Carl Jung spoke of the archetype of the lover, that part of our soul that seeks deep connection with others. However, this lover blossoms healthily only when we accept our shadow, that is, acknowledge our fears, doubts, and emotional wounds. Until then, our relationships will only reflect these unresolved inner conflicts. It is not surprising that people who embark on the path of self-love suddenly attract those who resonate with their renewed version. It seems as if the universe itself is testing your strength, creating synchronicities to make sure you have truly learned life's lessons. Perhaps someone from the past reappears, someone who once made you feel insignificant, or new relationships arise that suspiciously resemble old, painful scenarios. And here it is, the decisive moment of truth. Will you fall into the trap of the past again, or will you show awareness this time? Can you look at the situation with a clear, untroubled perspective, not allowing old dynamics to take over? Can you recognize the manifestation of old behavior patterns without succumbing to them, and most importantly, make a different choice? A choice to let go of what doesn't suit you, without fear, without guilt, but with a deep confidence that you deserve better. This is where the power of individuation manifests itself, ascending to the role of creator of your own destiny. As if waking from a long sleep, you move away from mindless existence and begin to consciously build the edifice of your life. You move away from passively reacting to circumstances and move towards consciously choosing your path. You stop fearing loneliness, discovering the joy of being alone with yourself, enjoying your own company. You give up emotional handouts, striving for fulfilling relationships that bring true satisfaction. However, it is important to understand that simply realizing these ideas on an intellectual level is not enough. True transformation begins when these principles are embodied in your daily life. When you stop making excuses for emotional abuse, stop clinging to what clearly doesn't bring you happiness, and find the courage to let go of the past without fear, with a firm belief that you are freeing up space for something much more valuable and meaningful. If you find yourself in a relationship where you don't feel recognized and respected, if you feel an imbalance, giving more than you receive in return, or if you feel the need to change to earn love, stop and ask yourself important questions. Ask yourself, what part of my personality is still convinced of my inferiority? Why do I allow these negative scenarios to repeat in my life? And most importantly, what will happen if I decide to break this vicious circle and start with a clean slate? The answers to these questions can be the key to radical changes in your life. After all, when you stop the fruitless search for love in the wrong places and finally find its source within yourself, your entire reality is transformed. As inner energy undergoes changes, the surrounding reality also transforms. And what is especially inspiring, people whose vibrations are in tune with your new state naturally enter your life. The true test of self-love manifests not in times of serenity, but in moments when fate tests you with situations that in the past caused doubts about your own worth. As Carl Jung taught, any crisis is not just a difficulty, but an opportunity for deep transformation, a kind of call from the unconscious to awaken and confront what we have long tried to suppress. In the context of interpersonal relationships, this transformation becomes possible only when we stop looking for, in the external world, what is initially within us. If you have ever felt that your worth is determined by how others treat you, if fear has kept you in relationships lacking mutual support and growth, then it indicates that a certain part of your psyche has not yet been integrated. Jung emphasized the importance of self-analysis, urging us to boldly look within ourselves and identify unconscious patterns that repeatedly bring us back to the same problems. It is impossible to attract people into your life who will value you if you do not realize your own worth. You should not expect respect if you constantly settle for less than you deserve, and it is impossible to build genuine relationships if your self-esteem still depends on the recognition of others. The first step towards transforming your relationships is an honest question to yourself. Do you treat yourself the way you expect others to treat you? This is not just a formal exercise, but a deep analysis of all aspects of your life. How you talk to yourself, what boundaries you set, in what situations you say yes when you really want to say no. Jung compared the human psyche to a mirror. If you feel a lack inside, then this lack will be reflected in the outside world. If you are haunted by insecurity, then you will attract situations that only amplify it. But if love, confidence, and integrity reign within you, then the world will respond in kind. Simply repeating positive affirmations or convincing yourself of your own worth is just a starting point. Genuine change begins when actions are dictated by sincere self-love. This means abandoning reactions based on a sense of lack and moving towards choices that come from inner abundance. There is no longer a need to chase anyone because people who are on the same wavelength as you will enter your life on their own. This is where Jung's profound concept of synchronicity comes into play. Internal transformations lead to the universe beginning to rebuild around you. Opportunities that previously seemed unattainable suddenly arise. People who are accustomed to a scarcity mindset leave, and those who reflect your new essence come in their place. This happens not because you are looking for them, but because you naturally attract them. It may seem like magic, but in reality, it is a reflection of how the human psyche works. Jung argued that the unconscious shapes its own reality. If deep down you are convinced of your inferiority, this belief will permeate every interaction you have. But when you realize your true worth, everything changes. You no longer accept emotional scraps. You are not satisfied with superficial relationships, and you do not allow anyone to violate the boundaries you have set. This is the true power of self-love. It is not something to prove to others, and not a mask of confidence. It is an internal state, an unwavering belief in your own worth. And when you reach this awareness, the world begins to reflect it back to you. It is important to understand that transformation does not happen with the wave of a magic wand. Our mind, like an experienced fighter, resists change, clinging to the familiar even if it causes suffering. It is perfectly natural to feel fear of the unknown, to doubt your own strength, to wonder if you are on the right path, and to succumb to the temptation to return to old, familiar patterns of behavior. This is where the line lies between those who truly transform their lives and those who are doomed to perpetual cycles. As Jung wisely noted, genuine transformation requires courage, the courage to go through the discomfort of change without giving in to the pressure of doubt. Only those who dare to cross the threshold of the unknown will find true satisfaction. If self-love seems to you now only a beautiful theory, if it is difficult for you to break relationships that are destroying you, if you doubt your own worth, know that this is an integral part of the process. Every emotion, every insecurity, every challenge is a chance to prove to yourself that you are really changing. The secret to success lies in consistency, in daily reminding yourself that you deserve better. Consciously choose what inspires you and fills you with energy, not what drains you. Surround yourself with people who give you positivity, not those who take it away. There are no easy solutions on this path, but one thing is certain. By stepping on it, you will see how the world around you is transformed beyond recognition. If you embark on the path of authenticity, dedicate yourself to personal growth, and muster the courage to face your fears instead of running away from them, one day you will look back and realize the incredible. You are no longer the person you used to be. And at that moment, you will grasp the true meaning of self-love, not as an abstract idea, but as a tangible, deeply rooted experience that has fundamentally changed your life. The day will come when you realize that there is no need to seek in the external world what is originally embedded within you. And when that moment strikes, fateful encounters will occur, not as a result of feverish searches, but thanks to your awakened inner power, attracting the right people like a magnet. When you begin to live, guided by genuine self-love, the signs confirming the correctness of your chosen path will become obvious and undeniable. You will suddenly find that you no longer experience the former thirst for universal approval, and the stinging remarks of others will cease to hurt so much, because you realize that their words are merely a reflection of their own inner world. You no longer waste precious energy on futile attempts to prove your worth to someone, since this confirmation already comes from your internal source. This does not mean that you shut yourself off from the world and become indifferent to others. On the contrary, genuine self-love makes your relationships with other people deeper and more meaningful, because you no longer act out of a sense of need, not seeking to fill a gaping inner void at someone else's expense. You begin to interact with others on a fundamentally different level, not out of need, but out of abundance, and this drastically changes the dynamics of your relationships. You no longer allow yourself to be used. You do not enter into relationships where you have to constantly prove your significance. Instead, you simply allow yourself to be yourself, and those who resonate with your true essence remain nearby naturally and effortlessly. However, the path to self-love is not strewn with roses, but is fraught with considerable difficulties. At the moment when you embark on the path of sincere love and acceptance of yourself, do not be surprised if situations loom on the horizon that test the strength of your newfound position. It is likely that there will be those who want to pull the strings of manipulation again, as if nothing has changed. Old habits and patterns of behavior may make themselves known, tempting you to return to the familiar rut. There may be a temptation to resume relationships that, as you well understand, bring you nothing but disappointment. This is where the true test of your self-love manifests itself, the ability to make a different choice, to go against the current. As the wise Jung said, our unconscious stubbornly reproduces the same scenarios until we realize their roots. If people of a certain type are attracted into your life time and time again, if you constantly find yourself in the epicenter of the same conflicts, then this is not an evil fate at all, but only a signal that the lesson has not yet been learned. But if you have really changed, if you have truly realized your worth, then all these trials lose their power over you. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. Emotional manipulations do not achieve their goal, and you do not feel like a hostage of a situation that previously seemed hopeless. Suddenly, you realize that you have a choice. You can say no without a twinge of conscience. You can leave without fear. You can let go of the past without being paralyzed by doubts. And at this moment, something incredible happens. The energy that you spent on maintaining relationships incompatible with your essence is released. You no longer feel drained from trying to fit into someone else's world. You stop the desperate struggle for recognition from those who never wanted to see you as you are. The exhausting inner struggle is replaced by a long-awaited peace, a state of mental equilibrium previously unknown. Carl Jung, an outstanding psychologist, emphasized the importance of solitude on the path of individual development of the individual. This is not about eternal isolation, but about a necessary stage that allows you to restore the lost connection with yourself. Many people experience a fear of loneliness because they have been convinced that society, even with its negative aspects, is preferable to silence and self-analysis. However, when a person acquires the ability to enjoy their own company, when they realize their self-sufficiency and independence from external approval, their relationships with other people are built not on fear and need, but on conscious choice and a sincere desire to be together. This radically changes the situation, because now a person is looking not for someone who will fill their inner void, but for someone with whom they can share their fullness and joy of life. This is the key difference between genuine relationships and those based on emotional dependence and codependency. Moreover, when self-love becomes unshakable, a person begins to radiate a special energy, perceptible to others, even if they cannot always explain it. This energy manifests in a calm and confident gaze, in the composure of speech, in the ability to set personal boundaries clearly and without guilt. This transformation evokes two opposite reactions. Some people are drawn to this energy and seek to be near it, while others, those who previously maintained contact only through manipulation or dependence, gradually distance themselves. However, there is no need to worry about this. It is a natural cleansing process. One does not lose those who are truly meant to be in their life. One is freed from relationships that existed only because at one time they did not realize their worth and significance. The famous psychologist Carl Jung emphasized the importance of saying goodbye to the past in order to open doors for future changes. This idea applies not only to interpersonal relationships, but also to deep self-determination. That former version of oneself, which did not receive due recognition and respect, fades into oblivion. There is no longer that person who was bound by the fear of loneliness, who desperately needed external approval and was willing to settle for only partial closeness. Now you determine your own path and put your interests first. And when you make this choice, the world around you begins to change. Suddenly, signs of fate arise, new perspectives appear, chance encounters occur, and people enter your life who treat you with the respect and recognition you have always deserved. And this happens not because you desperately sought them, but because you no longer settle for less. If you are currently experiencing this turning point, if you find it difficult to let go of the past and the fear of loneliness still haunts you, remember, every time you make a choice in favor of yourself, set boundaries, and put your well-being first, you send a powerful signal to the universe. You declare your readiness to accept what you truly deserve. This marks the beginning of a new chapter in your life, where you no longer need to beg for love. It is naturally drawn to you. You go from settling for little to getting the very best. And when you look back, you will realize that the most valuable gift of this transformation was not finding someone who treats you with due respect, but discovering in yourself the ability to always treat yourself in that way. Looking around at the world, analyzing the quality of interpersonal connections, and observing the reactions of others, it is important to remember, all of this is a reflection of your inner world. As Jung stated, external reality is a projection of our internal state. If the fire of self-love burns in your soul, if you sincerely respect and value your personality, the world will reciprocate. However, this process is not limited to attracting positive people or avoiding toxic relationships. It is about reclaiming one's own power, about realizing that love does not require changes, and most importantly, about understanding that the only recognition that has true meaning is the recognition that comes from within. By accepting this truth, you will attain a freedom unknown to many. You will stop wasting energy trying to prove your worth to others, for you will realize that true love does not require imposition. It is recognized and shared. This is where true transformation begins. Instead of being angry at those who once did not appreciate you, you will feel gratitude. After all, these people became a mirror, reflecting what you needed to see in yourself. They pointed out areas that required healing, boundaries that you could not set, insecurities that unconsciously controlled you. By viewing these experiences as lessons, not as failures, you will attain complete freedom. Jung spoke of integrating the shadow as a path to self-realization. This means accepting not only strengths, but also wounds, fears, and mistakes. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to achieve universal love. It is only important to find harmony with yourself. Love for oneself is the cornerstone on which the building of your life is erected. Without this love, everything you create will be like a sandcastle, fragile, shaky, and susceptible to external forces over which you have no control. But when you make a choice in favor of yourself, when you realize your worth, magic happens. Your inner energy transforms. Your relationships with others reach a new level, and even the world around you appears in a different light. And the most amazing thing is that the people who are meant to be there come into your life without any effort on your part. However, it is important to understand that self-love is not a destination, but a fascinating journey that requires constant development. On this path, moments of doubt are inevitable, when you will be drawn back to old habits, when fear will whisper that you are not worthy of the best. But in those moments, remember that the very fact of your existence, that you are hearing these words, already indicates that you are on the right path, that you have touched upon a truth that is not yet accessible to many. And this is the most compelling evidence of your readiness for change. Therefore, I urge you to share this revelation with those who need it, with those who are mired in relationships that are destroying them, with those who have not yet realized their unique value. Let us together help more people wake up, free themselves from everything that hinders them, and begin to live, guided by sincere love for themselves. Write in the comments which part of this message resonated with your soul. At what stage of this journey are you now? Have you noticed how your life changes when you start treating yourself with more love and respect? Your story can be a source of inspiration for those who are currently going through something similar. Join our channel to always be aware of the latest releases, and do not forget to click on the bell icon so you do not miss any important updates. Your active participation, likes, comments, and reposts helps spread this inspiring message so that even more people can unlock their inner potential, realize their unique value, and accept their true essence. Self-love is not just an achievement. It is a fascinating journey full of discoveries and self-knowledge. Each day, making informed decisions, setting healthy boundaries, and taking care of yourself, you are creating the life you have always dreamed of. We are sincerely grateful to you for being with us, for your attention, and for your contribution to this common movement towards positive change. See you in our next videos, and remember, when you sincerely love yourself, the world reciprocates, recognizing your true value.